Why don't you give me a sign, like the sea that leaves a trail along that shore? It's not your problem, it's mine. Everybody thinks that I'm okay. Sometimes I think I am too. I'm on the outside looking in, I'm waiting for the shockwaves to begin. Oh, won't you let me hold you for one time? Just a rainy day in a London cafe, a London cafe. So give me one last serenade. Say to me, or swear at me till the night turns into day. And it was a shame when daylight faded, because we didn't notice at all.
Being the wife of a CEO is a job. It can be lonely, and sometimes we have to make sacrifices, but it has its rewards.
Hello, I'm Sophia Jessica, and welcome to the Fan Carpet.
So it's a pleasure to speak to you, Terri. How have you been?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, really, really good. Thank you for giving me the time. It's been busy, really, really busy. I think when the world closed down, because I was very much acting before then, I'd started to move into producing a little bit, Marc, but there was no sign of anything. And I don't think any of us realised actually that the pandemic would go on as long as it had. So I set up Buffalo Dragon, as you do in a lockdown. Why wouldn't you set up a production company when the rest of the world is locking down? So yeah, it's been amazing, but very busy.
Okay, awesome. If we go back to the beginning, was there a defining moment for you to get into the industry?
Wow, that is a good question. Actually, Hollyoaks was my first job ever. It was my first audition and my first job, and oh my gosh, you're taking me back now. I had such fun times there, but I didn't really know how the audition process went. And Dorothy Andrews, who was the casting director at Hollyoaks at the time, she pulled me up for, I think, 3 auditions, and I'd gone up, and then she wanted me to go up again, and I had a big modelling job with Marks and Spencer's, and I was like, I can't let Marks and Spencer's down. And she said, no, you've got to come up. It's between you and another girl. And when I went up, I started the job immediately, and the next time I went home was about 4 months later, to pack up my house and move to Liverpool. So thank goodness for Topshop. I went there and bought a whole wardrobe of clothes. It was fabulous because I just didn't get to go home.
Okay, awesome. So what was it about Stranger in Our Bed that made you want to tell this story?
Well, I set up Buffalo Dragon in September 2020 with my business partner, Greg Barrow. And oh my gosh, it just seems like a lifetime ago, that does. I wanted something that had existing IP and also a genre that I knew was quite a popular genre. And a psychological thriller is a good genre. And The Stranger in Our Bed is based on a USA Today best-selling book. So it has existing IP. So it kind of ticks both of those boxes. And I'm really thrilled at how it's being received so far.
Cool.
How familiar with the book were you before it came to you?
Not at all. I'd not heard of it. But to be fair, I used to be a person that at least had 3 books on the go at the same time. And then when I started moving a little bit more into producing, and I was reading a lot more scripts at a quicker pace, then I was reading less books at bedtime. So had I not, I probably would have read it, but I did read it. And as soon as I read it, I thought this is going to make a great film. So then, the rest is history.
What was the experience like working with Giles?
Oh, I loved working with Giles. Yeah. I've obviously got to know him a lot better now. Now, was I listening to his podcast before or after? Maybe when he started to get involved in the project, I started listening to his podcast. And between the Filmmakers Podcast and Angle on Producers, one or the other keeps me company on my dog walks of an evening. So yeah, he was really great. I think the great thing about Giles is he comes at it from lots of different angles. He's been a producer, he's been a writer, he's been a director. So with Stranger on Our Bed, he was able to bring quite a lot of things to the table. And he was a joy on set, both from a producing point of view, and of course he directed me as an actress. So yeah, I really enjoyed working with him.
Yeah. So what can you tell me about Becky and how she fits into the story?
So when we meet Becky,
Right.
her brother's already been disappeared for a little while, so she's quite browbeaten, she's she's tired, she's concerned, and I think she meets Charlotte hoping that Charlotte would have some answers for her, but they strike up quite an unlikely investigative duo, and between the two of them, albeit quite reluctantly from Becky, they try and get to the bottom of where he's disappeared to. But she was a great character to play. I didn't particularly enjoy being a brunette, but she, as terms of her character journey and the emotions that I was able to portray as an actress, she was very interesting to play.
Did you find something to relate to with Becky?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to, from an acting point of view. I think if you can find a place within yourself to draw from, I think it helps making your characters be a bit authentic. And I think with Becky, I've loved and lost. And I think that's a good place to start with someone like that. And I've obviously been on journeys, emotional journeys, because I'm a little bit older now. And I think when you've weathered a few storms in your personal life, you always find places to go to when you're trying to create a character.
Do you have any memories from filming Stranger in Our Bed that you'll take with you for the rest of your career?
I think Stranger in Our Bed will always have a special place in my heart because it was the first feature that we did through the production company, Buffalo Dragon. But also, we were in lockdown, and the navigating a shoot in lockdown for the first time for any producer, I think, is really challenging. We did manage to assemble an amazing crew, which was great, and they were very considerate, and it was a real team effort, I think, because we were all trying to navigate that treacherous COVID territory. But we were in a manor house for a couple of weeks that we turned into a studio, really, and we lived together and worked together, and I found that really lovely. So at the end of the day, we kind of hang out in the kitchen and just talk about the day. And I really felt like, even though I worked with some of the crew before on another film, I really felt that I was able to get to know them a lot better. And I think you see a really different side of the crew when you're not working. So I'll forever be grateful of that memory. But also just immensely proud that we launched the company in September and we were on set 10 weeks later shooting our first film, which is, in anybody's book, really quite impressive. Never mind the fact that we were in lockdown and a lot of the facilities weren't open. So we were having to really adapt and think on our feet how to do things. But from a producing point of view, it's when you're challenged the most in that way is when you grow the most. So I feel like on a producing journey, I came a long way during that film. I mean, I've still got loads to learn, haven't we all? And we should not be doing it when we think we don't have anything else to learn. But because of all the hurdles that we had to overcome, I think I'll always be proud of Stranger. But it was hard in the sense that it was probably more demanding than the normal film. So then to be acting in it as well was a real challenge.
Yeah. So you've obviously assembled a brilliant cast, Emily and Ben amongst them. What was the experience like, and what made them right to lead the film?
I'd really admired their work before their name was even discussed with the team. Emily, I watched in Humans, and actually only recently. And I thought she was brilliant. I love the character she played. She was really quite quirky in it. And Ben, I'd seen him in Divergent, and there are a trilogy of films that I also really love. So when their names were mentioned, it was brilliant. And actually, initially, I don't think I knew that they were married. So we were speaking about one, and then we were speaking about the other independently. And then we realized they were married. And because we were really in the throes of COVID, to have a married couple play a married couple when we had already the complications of having COVID protocol started to make more and more sense. But that was very much secondary. Giles and the team behind Stranger in Our Bed were very uncompromising in terms of who's right for Charlotte, who's right, for them as a couple and the dynamics. And they're brilliant on screen. And it was really interesting to watch because you never really know until you're on set with someone how they're going to cope as a married couple. But it was so separate. When they walked on set, they were Tom and Charlotte. And when they were hanging out in the kitchen at the end of the day, they were very much Ben and Emily. And the two were really, really separate on set, which I thought was really fascinating to watch. And I guess the only way you can do it, because you almost need to leave your marital life as you know it at the door. Obviously, they had a shorthand because they know each other so well. But Tom and Charlotte were most definitely not anything like Ben and Emily.
So producing the film as well, are there any other aspects of the industry that you'd like to pursue?
Funnily enough, no. I think people always think that, because they said, oh, are you going to direct next? No, absolutely not. I really love producing. And I think producing really suits me in terms of a producer's job. I really love people. I really like problem solving. There are aspects of the job, I think, that aren't as much fun. But generally, the job of a producer is to assemble a team and then kind of be the conductor that helps orchestrate all those beautifully talented instruments to make the finest song that you can all make together. And I hope that's what we've done with Stranger is pulled all those elements together. But it is really a team effort. And I think any moving part in a production needs to really understand that. There's no department that's more important than another department. We are all, as one, really, a team. But no, I have no secret desires to write, direct, just produce and act. That's it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, enough on your plate with those two. So what is your preferred genre, and do you have any favorite films?
That's a really good question. My preferred genre, I am really quite eclectic. I would say I love thrillers, but I also like YA. I love Vampire Diaries, Teen Wolf, all the stuff that you probably wouldn't expect me to like. But then I like sci-fi as well. I like clever horror, but I don't like slasher horror. And I love clever films. Coda just blew me away, as I think it did everybody else. There was such heart in that film. But then I really like cheesy Christmas films. Come November, all I watch is Christmas films. And I'm actually really, really quite keen to make a Christmas film. Just got to find a good script. So if any come across your desk, Marc, send it my way. I think there's a real cheesiness about a Christmas film. And I don't know what it is that I love about them. I think I love the fact that there's always a problem that everyone has to pull together and overcome. And there's usually a love story. And then there's snow and Christmas presents and hymns, and I love Christmas, my favorite time of the year. So yeah, that's definitely on my hit list. Christmas film.
They're just easy to watch.
They feel good.
They feel good and easy to watch. Around about the same time, about November, I'm watching like either whether it's like another Princess Switch or another Christmas Prince or something on Netflix. Or
what's your favorite? What's your favorite at the moment?
I really enjoyed the Princess Switch. That series, it's a series of 3 films on Netflix.
I think I've seen them. It's where the girl switches, isn't she?
Yeah.
I like those too.
That one. I really enjoyed the Christmas Prince as well. I really enjoyed that. That's on Netflix. There's 3 films. I think there's going to be a 4th. But yeah, like come November, I'm usually watching like anything on Hallmark.
Me too. I like Hallmark.
Yeah, anything on Hallmark. They just feel good. They're easy to watch, and they're inoffensive. I think that's why we like them so much, because they're inoffensive. They're just a good watch.
We need to find out the next big British Christmas hit film, and Buffalo need to make it, Mark.
Absolutely.
And Signature need to distribute it and sell it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Coda, I absolutely adored. Emilia Jones is a revelation, and I can't wait to see her in Lock and Key later this year. Well, later next month.
I've watched a bit of Lock and Key actually. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. I really loved Coda, and I didn't think I would for some reason, and I'm not sure why, because I went in preconceived. But for me, that spoiler, I don't think it's a spoiler, but the moment where she is auditioning and her parents and brother sneak in and listen to her and they take the sound away, and you really get a sense of what it must be like to be deaf.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is really powerful, and I think they did it really, really well.
They did.
And you know, I don't know if you read, the guys that made it went into Toronto, I think it was, before Apple bought it, and they said, we just wanted to make sure that somebody wanted to buy it. And it was one of the biggest sales, wasn't it, of that festival?
It was, yeah. It was, they did an incredible job, and like the lead actors are actually deaf. Apart from,
well, I know, because I think that's why
Emilia.
It took them a while to get this across the line, because I think powers that weren't involved in the film, maybe some of the studios didn't want to use deaf actors.
Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, there prejudice was all over the place, and unfortunately, that's something that we all have to contend with. So, look into the future. What does the future hold for Stranger in Our Bed?
Lots more sales, I hope. I need to make my investor his money back. Stranger in Our Bed is premiering currently on Showtime, and we've had really, really good reviews. Thank you. It gets its big US release on the 23rd of August, and then it will be released in the UK via Signature on the 5th of September. And then we just keep trying to sell it around the world. That's what we're hoping for Stranger in Our Bed, that it's a roaring success.
Awesome. You're looking forward to it. So obviously, with the popularity of streaming services like Netflix, and obviously they were the lifeblood for the last couple of years, what do you think the future of cinema is?
That is a really, really tricky question. And you're asking an indie producer, so we're quite negative on the whole thing, because what's happened with the cinemas now, once upon a time they would designate X amount of screens to the studio films, and the independent films would have much lesser screens, but we'd still get some visibility. And what's happening now, the bigger films, the studio films, are taking up much more screens, because that's their cash cows. And the space for independent cinema now is much less than it used to be. So I think it's going to be a challenge. We are also, as indie producers, really up against it, Not that we ever want to underpay crew, we really, really don't. But as an indie producer, what you offer crew if they come and work for a little bit less is the opportunity to step up within their career. But because now all the platforms are making so much content, and I think the crew are being paid more now than they probably ever have been, we just can't compete with that, because there are certain price points an indie film will not make the money back. So if you increase the crew spending, the investor won't make his money back and you'd never get anything made. So the challenge that we've got at the moment is really trying to balance that line with looking after our crew and making them feel valued, but being realistic about what we can afford to pay, because otherwise the money's going to be behind the scenes and not on camera, and the investor's not going to get their money back. So we need support from the streamers. We need support from the government. There was a really good survey that was done, an independent survey, and it was about the death of indie film, because if they're not careful, there will be a death of indie film. And we have a place in the cinema. We have a place in the film industry. We are very different tastes to what the big studio films are, but we are never going to survive unless some of those big boys pass that elevator back down, because trying to get a movie funded is more difficult than it ever has been. And that's not just because we're living in a time of austerity. It's because even sales agents, most of them are now looking at the pre-sale model. Now, to have a pre-sale film, you need a big Hollywood actor. To have a big Hollywood actor, you're looking at, you know, being backed by big studio money. So I don't know, Mark, is the honest answer. And I think it's a really frustrating and frightening time at the moment for independent films. But who knows? You know, I think we've got to have it. I think the industry needs a rebirth. I think that's what needs to happen. How that looks, I don't know. I just know that we are really struggling.
And companies like Signature to stick around.
Well, yeah, I mean, Signature are one of the few sales agents that I think really do support indie film. I mean, I've had conversations with bigger sales agents that say, if you've not been backed by public money, then we won't be able to support you, because they know by having that stamp of authority, it's easier for them to recoup their money. Every level is up against it now. And I'm not blaming anybody. I think the sales agents, you know, need to keep their top line happy. Everybody's got deadlines and everybody's got targets that they have to meet. I'm not pointing the finger at all. I am just saying we are in dire need of some support, wherever that wants to come from. I will gratefully receive it. I understand why sales agents are using the pre-sale model. I really do. But if we want the UK or any independent film industry to survive, we have to look at ways to support it, and new ways, because it's a new era.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So just finally, what are you hoping audience will take away from Stranger in Our Bed when they get to see it?
In a world of face brag and social media, where we all do it, we're all guilty of showing the best sides of our life. I think with Stranger in Our Bed, what it shows you is that not everything is what it seems. And if you scratch beneath the surface enough, everybody's walking in their own journey, and it's not always easy, but there are ways that you can overcome it. I hope that they get some inspiration behind it, because the female lead, Emily, who plays it so beautifully, she's a strong woman and she fights for what she believes in. And I think that's quite inspirational.
It is, absolutely. Well, Terri, it's been absolutely wonderful to speak to you today. Thank you so much for taking the time and good luck with the film and the rest of the stuff that you're going to be making. Because
Oh, thank you, Mark.
I'll
It's
be
really
watching
lovely to
Buffalo
meet you.
Dragon with like great interest.
Well, I hope you'll keep in touch with us.
Absolutely, I will. All right, thanks
Thank
very
you.
much. You look after yourself. Have a good day. Take care.
Bye-bye, Mark.
Thank you for watching The Fan Carpet. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram for more content next time.
I'm here on the largest of the Balearic Islands, Mallorca, with the turquoise waters of the Mediterranean Sea, beautiful mountainous landscape, the thriving city of Palma, quaint little market towns, a growing number of luxury hotels. It's no surprise that the likes of Audrey Hepburn and Elizabeth Taylor like to holiday here. So come and join me as I take you round Mallorca.
Thank you for watching The Fan Carpet. If you like this video, be sure to click that thumbs up button at the bottom of your screen. And also be sure to subscribe to the Fan Carpet YouTube channels. They're absolutely free and so much fun too. Be sure to check out the official website, thefancarpet.com. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay up to date with reviews, competitions, the latest news, and so much more.